Hello and welcome to another video by Harpy Cloud Solutions. Today, I'm going to show you a very wonderful way to save cost on SMTP servers, and you can do this by creating it on Azure. So basically, an SMTP server is a mail server that uses the simple mail transfer protocol to handle outgoing email messages. It's basically responsible for sending, receiving, and relaying email messages between the senders and recipients over the internet. So let's say you have an application or any solution that, when people send emails to you, or even when they sign up to your application, they're meant to receive like an automatic email. All those things, an SMTP server enables this to happen. And most of the time, you're required to put in your SMTP server details. So with Azure, it will literally give you the server host name, the username and password that you need to provide on the application end or on your hosting provider to enable this work. So with that said, let's get into it. So you want to start by going to your Azure portal, and on the search bar, just type communication services. All right, and click on it. If you have none, you'll be required to create one. So let's create one together. All right, so I'm just going to put it in the resource group of my choice. That is left for you to decide. And I'm going to call this ACS-tutorial -01. You can always give it the name of your choice. Select the region of your choice. I'm choosing Australia because that's where I am. So the next is tags. You can just use any tag that you want. I'll just put this purpose tutorial. All right. And next, review plus create and create. So deployment is in progress, and shortly we'll have our resource created. Shouldn't take long. So now our resource is now created. Just going to click go to resource. So now we have our communication service created in our desired resource group. In addition to an Azure communication service resource, we also need to create an email communication service. So just go to your search bar and type email. You should bring this out. And then the next thing you want to do is click create email communication service. All right. So put it in the same resource group where you created the um, Azure communication service, and then give it a name. I'm just going to give it ECS tutorial 01. So this is usually a global resource, and the data itself can be stored in the region of your choice. So I'm going to choose Australia. And next, tags, next, review plus create, and then create. So this will just take some minutes to deploy, and then we'll get back to it. All right, now we have our resource created. Click on go to resource. So this is the email communication service we created. All right, that's great. So now the next thing we want to do is to provision domains. If you're just trying this out, for starters, and you don't actually have your own, custom domain, for example, there's happycloudsolutions.com or happycloudsolutions.com.au. So if I want to send an email, I'll prefer it comes from that custom domain. But if you don't have one, you can always add a free Azure subdomain, which you can then use for your SMTP server. So this is how it will look like. I'll do both. I'll do both the free one and the custom domain, so we see how that works. So with the Azure domain, when you click create one, it's going to start the deployment for you, and then it's going to do the verification for everything. That's the SPF status, the DKIM, and also your domain status. But if you're using the custom domain one, you would actually need to take the CNAME records, the A records that it provides, and then upload it to your domain name registrar. Okay, so once this is done, we'll do the one for the custom domain. So the free Azure subdomain has been created, and as you can see here, this is what it is. If you click on it, you get more info about the domain. So let's see. This is the domain itself. Just click cancel. This doesn't really matter. Click on email services, mail from addresses. All right. So you see how this is so long? Do not reply at blah 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 dot azure.com.net. So when you send an automatic email, it's going to show that it is coming from do not reply at blah 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 dot azure.com.net, and this looks like spam to some people. So you don't want to do this. That's why it's important that you actually use your own, custom domain name. So for example, if I use the happycloudsolutions.com.au, it's going to be do not reply at happycloudsolutions.com.au. So with that said, let us go back to provision domains, and I'm going to click on add custom domain. Okay. So I'm just going to enter and do this. .com. So hybridcloudsolutions.com. Yeah, that is good. So click on confirm and then click on add. So what this is going to bring out for us is basically the records that you then need to upload on your domain, registrar. So I'm just going to wait for that to load. So now when it finishes loading, it's going to bring out this page that says verify domain. So we're going to click on verify domain. That is where you see all the records that you're meant to impute into your domain name registrar. So I'm just going to take this and put this in my domain name registrar. So do the same for your own, domain. And when you're done, you click on next, review, finish, and then it's actually going to come back here, and the domain name status is going to change to verified. Okay, so if I click on next, for example, without doing anything, and I click on done, okay, and then close. So let me just close this and refresh this page. So it's saying verification in progress. It's gonna come back with a triangle or a warning sign saying configure because it didn't work, because I actually didn't go to my domain name registrar and do anything. So I'm gonna do that now. I'm gonna cancel this, okay, and then I'm going to go and actually put in the txt record and then verify it again, and then we'll see how that works. So now we see that this has been verified because I went on and put the txt record in my domain name register. So now the next one to do is the SPF. So just click on configure. Same thing, take the txt record and go put it on your domain name register and then come back. All right, let me do that. Something you need to take note of is that in addition to verifying the SPF, you also need to verify the DKIM. And basically, you just need to click next, and then you see the details for DKIM 1 and 2, which you need to go and update in your DNS records. All right, so I'm going to do that before I click on done for it to actually try to verify. As you can see, all my records have been verified except the SPF one. And basically, it's because a domain cannot have more than one SPF. And what I did was to put another SPF record, that's this one, in addition to the one that I already had existing in my domain. So that's why it is not seeing it and still requires me to configure it. So that's fine. So if it's a production environment and you cannot just delete the existing SPF record, you can then create like a subdomain, that you would use um instead of using the main domain to file your SPF record. So I'm just gonna resolve this issue now and then reconfigure it. So let me do that. So what I had done was the existing SPF record for this main domain, I removed it. And this is because it was not required for the functioning of my day-to-day activity. It was an SPF record that was put there, but then as the mailing server for our environment changed, it was no longer necessary. So that's why I could remove it. And when I did that, it verified. But then for you that might be using a production environment and you don't want to remove an existing SPF record because it might break something, then this is for you. All you can do is you click add a domain, add custom domain. And then in this scenario, what I put here was tutorial dot. So what I put here is tutorial.happycloudsolutions.com. We enter the name, confirm, and add, and then it would then require you to put in the respective TXT records and CNAME records in your domain registrar. So just giving you a snippet of what it looked like. So this is how I took this screenshot from my DNS records, and you can see that for the tutorial, there's this one is the SPF record here, and then this one down here is for the TXT record. That's for the actual domain status. And then this is the DKIM1 and DKIM2. Something to note is that your if you're doing the DKIM1 and 2 for a subdomain, at the end of this selector one hyphen Azure com hyphen prod hyphen net dot underscore domain key, at the end you have to put a dot tutorial. For the main domain you don't have to put the dot tutorial, but for the subdomain you have to put the dot tutorial because they can't be conflicting CNAME records for DKIM. So that's very important to note. All right, so now that we have done that, the next thing will be to go back to the communication service that we created earlier, which is Azure Communication Service, and then we're going to connect the domain. So just click on domains, click on connect domain. So you cannot connect a domain if you've not verified all the records. If you've not verified SPF, your domain status, DKIM, it's not going to work. Okay, so you need to actually verify everything before you can actually connect your domain, because it's going to show that you don't have any domain here. So right now you can see we have three. The first one is the free one by Azure. The second one is the Happy Cloud Solutions one, and then this one. Right. So it's showing you how the automatic email will look like. There's the from address is do not reply at happycloudsolutions.com to whosoever, and then your email basically. Something very important to note is that Azure SMTP is only used for outbound emails. Like it's not used for inbound. Like someone cannot send an email to that address. So that's why it's clearly reaching do not reply. All right. So now we have our domain here connected. You can just click on it again, and then if you look at provision domains, this is the domain that we're interested in. Click on it and click on mail from addresses, and then you would see the mail from address that you're going to give to whosoever is putting into your SMTP server. So we're not totally done. The next thing that we're supposed to do is to create an app registration in Entra ID. And what that is going to do for us is the username, the when you're creating your SMTP, your SMTP server has to have username, password, and port. So for this one, the password would be the client secret of the app registration that you create. So you create the app registration and then you grant it a custom role to your communication service. So hold on tight. We are going to do that now. So let's go to Entra ID. In Entra ID, we're going to click on Manage and then scroll down to App Registrations. So now we're going to create an app registration, or you can also call it Service Principal, as you may. I'm just going to give it a name of SMTP SB tutorial. And then leave every other thing as it is and click on register. Once this has been created, click on add a certificate or a secret. And then we're going to create a client secret because that is what is going to serve as the password for your SMTP server. So just click on new client secret. You can name it SMTP server password 01. Give it the expiry date of your choice and click on add. Now copy this and save this somewhere safe. So you're going to be able to see my secret value now because this is just for test, and once this is done, I would, take this down. So just showing you how this is going to be like this. Like this is the SMTP details that will be required when you're setting up your SMTP server. And one of the things that I mentioned here is the Entra ID client secret as your password. So you can just put that here. As you can see here, this was going to be your server host name. It's going to be your port is going to be 587. TLS will be enabled. Then your username will be the Azure Communication Service Resource name dot the Entra App ID dot the Entra Tenant ID, and we are going to see all that. So since we're in the app, let's just go to the app ID. Take that. And this is what the app ID is going to be, not that. So this one, you have to remove the less than and greater sign. It's not required for the name, all right? So all you just need to do is to replace from here to here with the value. Okay, so now that we've done that, now that we've created, a service principal, let's go back to the communication service. So just click on this. So what we're going to do now is create a custom role. Okay. So to create a custom role, you can create a custom role on the resource group level or on the resource level. Okay. And what we're going to do, you can also create it on the subscription level. But for this video, I'm just going to create the custom role on the Azure Communication Service level. So this is the communication service. Go to AIM, and then once you're in AIM, click on the roles tab. So search for a role that you want to clone. So I'm just going to clone the reader role. Okay. So I've selected the reader role. The next thing I do is to click on the ellipsis symbol and click on clone. All right, once that is done, you're going to give it a name, and I'll just say ACS um, email right. And I would say clone, and the role to clone is reader, as I said. So next, we'll go to permissions, click on add permissions. And here we're going to give it permissions like write and read, and also email services permission for communication services. So I'm going to select the Azure communication service. This is it here. And we'll just look for communication service read. Let's do this one, Microsoft.communication slash communication services. So click on this one. Then we also want to do the same thing for write. And then let's go to the email services. Scroll down. Email services. This is it. So for the email services, we want to give it write permission. So click on this and then add. So now you've had all the permissions that you want to assign to your custom role. And the next thing we do is to click on review plus create and create. All right. Click on OK. That should be created now. As you can see down here now, this is our new role. There's no description here because I didn't put any description. For your own purpose, it's important that you put a description there. Like maybe if this is a production environment or even a test environment, it's always important to put a description. All right, so now that we've created the custom role, the next thing that we're going to do is to assign that role to the service principal that we created. So let's do that. Add role assignment. And this is the ACS email right. Click on next, select members, and I'm just going to put the name. This is it. And I'm just going to click on review plus assign and assign. So right now we have given, created a custom role. We've assigned that custom role to the service principal that we created. So we're pretty much done. The next thing now is to get all the details that you need. So let's go back to the communication service. This is it. So the ACS resource name is this, copy and paste it here. So now your username for your SMTP server is ACS resource name dot app ID detail dot your Entra ID tenant information. So I'm not just putting the tenant ID here, but whatever your tenant ID is, just replace this whole bunch here with your tenant ID and you are good to go. So with this, I hope you've been able to understand, how to set up an SMTP server on Azure. And like I said, just to reiterate, this solution only allows for outbound emails. It doesn't allow for inbound emails. So that's why, you know, if you see the mail from subject, it says do not reply because it doesn't allow inbound emails. So let me just go to it and take a look. Provision domains. So this is the domain that we're using. email services, mail from. So yes, it say do not reply at happycloudsolutions.com. As you can see also that this is grayed out. It's grayed out because you cannot add another um mail from address unless you upgrade. So to do that, you actually have to, raise a request. There is a form actually that you have to fill, and then there's also a document that you have to fill some various questions that Microsoft asks you about what you're using the service for, and then they would now go through your request and see if it is legit and if it's what approving. So when they approve that, it now allows you to actually add your own mail from address, so you can now change it. So instead of do not reply, you could just use your own name, like maybe tutor at happycowsolutions.com and things like that. So yes, I hope this was helpful. I hope you've been able to find a solution that saves cost for your SMTP server. So thank you and see you in our next video.